Today you're going to be looking at solving quadratics using the quadratic formula. Now, solving quadratics, there are lots of different ways to do it. You can factorise, you can solve with a graph, you can use trial and improvement, but this is when we use the quadratic formula. So there are a couple of things to make note of on this. Okay, so first of all, it's always going to be on a calculator paper. And it will always be on maths. Okay, so it's always going to be on maths paper 2, this one. Okay, usually it comes along with a bit of problem solving. So you'll see some of those types of questions in your booklet today. But the key things to look out for, it might not say in the question, use the quadratic formula. Okay, what it might say is solve. So this equation, giving your answers correct to 2 decimal places. So there are 2 key things to look out for to give you a clue on using the quadratic formula. You need to make note of the word answers, and you need to make note of 2 decimal places. If it ever says give your answer correct to 2 decimal places when you're solving, you're going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so that's a key part. This other part, give your answers, there's more than one. Okay, so at the end of this, there are 2 answers. Okay, sometimes we might have to pick, using our common sense, the correct answer. Okay, otherwise, we just have 2 answers. So x can be 2 values to make this equation work. So basically, I'm substituting in a value here and here so that it equals 0. Okay, so let's have a look at how this works. Now, this is a formula that's given to you in the exam paper itself. Okay, x equals minus b, or negative b, plus or minus, so this is key and this will make sense when we get further through the question, the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Okay, and what else you're told is that it's using ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So it gives you this part to let you know what a, b and c are equal to. Okay, so a, b and c are equal to the numbers that are in front of each part. So it's so a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and c is the last part. And all we do then is we substitute it into this equation. Okay, this is something you won't have come across before, but at the end, when we've done as many as the calculations as we can, we're going to go in 2 directions. So we're going to do one where we would add this part together and we'll get an answer. And then we're going to do the same where we take away this part and then we get an answer. So that's how we get our 2 different answers. So let's have a look at this one. Okay, so I've got 2 examples to go through with you. So let's figure out what is a. So in this one, a is equal to the number that's in front of x. Well, there isn't anything there, so it'd be 1. Okay, so if there's nothing there, it's 1. B is the number in front of x, which is 5. C is the last number, which is 3. Okay, we'll talk about when they're positive and negative in a minute. These are all positive because these are all positive here. Okay, so all we do now is we're going to substitute into the quadratic formula what we know. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared take away 4 times 1 times 3. So remember, these mean multiply together. All divided by 2 times 1. Okay, so let's do some calculations. This is a calculator question. Okay, so let's work out this whole part here. Okay, so I've got my calculator. So I'm going to do the square root of 5 squared take away. I'm going to put this bit in brackets because I always get nervous that it's not going to do all that bit in one go. Okay, equals. So I've got the square root of 13. I'm going to leave it as that for now because I don't want to write all that number down. Okay, so it's easier just to keep it as the square root of 13. So what I'm left with is negative 5 plus or minus square root of 13 all divided by, well, 2 times 1 is 2. So now I'm going to split my question up into the 2 parts. So x equals -5 plus the square root of 13 divided by 2. Or it could equal x equals -5 take away the square root of 13 divided by 2. So this is where we split it up into 2. One is plus, one is take away. Okay, so now all I need to do is work out my 2 answers. So let's do the first one. So I'm going to do it as a fraction like this one. So -5 plus the square root of 13 all divided by 2. And that gives me the answer of -0.7. Okay, if I round it to 1 decimal place. Let's do the other side. So my fraction button, -5, take away the square root of 13, all divided by 2, and that gives me the answer of -4.3. And that is it. They are my 2 answers. Okay. Let's have a look at the next one. So this one is slightly different, okay, because we've got a negative in it. Okay, so let's start off. Let's write out the formula. Okay, and let's write out what A, B and C are equal to. So this time, A is equal to 4, B is equal to 3, and C is equal to -6. Okay, so let's substitute in what we know. So -3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared, take away 4 times 4 times -6. All divided by 2 times 4. Okay, so let's put the square root part into my calculator. Okay, so I've got the square root of 3 squared, take away, I'm going to put it in brackets again, 4 times 4 times -6. So I get the square root of 105. -3 plus or minus the square root of 105, all divided by 8. Okay, so we now go our 2 separate roots. X equals -3 plus the square root of 105 divided by 8, or x equals -3 take away the square root of 105 divided by 8. So let's do our 2 options. -3 plus the square root of 105 divided by 8. So this one is 0.9. Or I'm going to just go back through this one and change that to a takeaway. My answer is -1.7. And that's it. The only part where you need to be really careful when you're doing your questions is if this one is a negative. Okay, but I'll help you with that in the lesson.